Hello.
A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 4. The Dream Master.
Hello and welcome to the next installment of Popcornween. Today, we are going to go over the Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Masters. And it was a serviceable movie. It was decent. I have it placed at about number 5 in the overall series. It was kind of one of those mediocre ones. Dream Warriors was so freaking good. And then they had to continue the saga, and it just fell a little flat, even though it's better than the next two completely horrible sequels. This movie made about $50 million, so it was definitely one of their better performing movies. So this comes right after Dream Warriors. Everybody loved Dream Warriors, and so of course everybody showed up to the movie theaters for this specific film. So one of the things to note in this film is Patricia Arquette did not reprise her role. She had a very, very tough time, and then when it came for her reprising her role, they just didn't offer that much money to her, and she was an up-and-coming actress, and so she just said, oh, hell no. And so what we got was a person named Tuesday Knight, and she had zero charisma, and she had zero interest in even trying to replicate what Kristen Parker was in the Dream Warrior series. So good news is she got killed off in the first act, and so it wasn't that big of a deal for them, but she had no chemistry with the old cast, and it was just a horrible casting choice for the Kristen character. This is also the point at which the Nightmare on Elm Street solidified their you only survive one movie and then you die in the next until the subsequent series. And then you've got Alice, who was played by Lisa Wilcox, who ends up surviving two movies. And in my opinion, she didn't deserve to, because she wasn't a great character. If anybody deserved the right to survive two movies, it was Nancy. And I know you say, but Nancy's been in 3 movies. Yes, but one was a meta, and we're going to get to that one. That's one of my favorite ones in the series. But they started kind of the kill the characters off in the first act after they survive a movie in this one. And they held that for everybody but Alice until the very end of the series. The basic premise of Nightmare on Elm Street 4 is the gang is back. You've got Alice, you've got Joey, and you've got Kincaid. So you got Joey, Kincaid, and Alice who survive, Kristen, who survived the previous movie. They come in, and she starts feeling like Freddy's coming back. And one of her superpowers in the Dream Warrior movies was to bring people into her dreams. She had said back then in that movie that her dad, she used to bring her dad into her dreams. Kincaid got put into the padded cell in solitary. He fell asleep, and so Nancy came in, and they went into another hypnotic state where Kristen pulled them all into where he was at the crescendo or the third act of that movie. We're back. She's back in school. She's in school with Kincaid and Joey, and she just starts having a bad feeling that Freddy's there. And so every time she gets scared, she pulls Joey and Kincaid into her dreams. Well, what happens is that Freddy is coming back, and so he starts picking them off one by one. So in the previous movie, they consecrated his bones, they buried him. The very first death in this movie is Kincaid, and Kincaid dies. He falls asleep. He gets pulled into a very large car junk place that they buried Freddy's bones in, and his dog comes into the dream with him. And the way that Freddy is brought back to life is not by digging him up, not by unconsecrating him, but by a dog pissing on his grave. And it was the worst special effects, just pissed fire The dog just pissed fire on the ground and it opened up a chasm. And then, of course, Kincaid did what he could, but ultimately, Kincaid died saying, Freddy's back, Freddy's back. One of the weird things when the friends died is they would call for Kristen. Kincaid did it and Joey did it as well. It's Kristen! But Kristen's the one that brings you into the dream. So it really didn't make sense. It was a little bit hokey and corny for them to do that. The camera starts spinning, it raises up, and you see just this infinite amount of cars in this junk lot. And he's saying, Freddy's back, Freddy's back. And then right after that, it cuts to Joey, and Joey's on his bed, and he falls asleep, and he has a poster because Joey is he's just got a perpetual boner. He just does. Every aspect of him in this movie is him lusting after some chick with tits. And so he has this poster of a model on his wall, and then he looks up and the model's gone, and he's on a waterbed, and she comes up, and he looks down, and she's kind of like a mermaid under this water, and he's trying to get to her because, again, he's just got a boner constantly. And she sticks her boobies up. Again, we've got to have boobies in all the horror movies now. She's sitting there under the waterbed. It's actually a really cool scene. It was one of the better deaths. It was just kind of cool. And if you look at some of the behind the scenes stuff, they actually had a tank that was under this bed, and then they had another room where people would go into the tank with scuba divers and stuff like that. It's actually the behind the scenes for that is pretty cool. She starts to kind of go away under the water, and he's like, oh no, where'd you go, where'd you go? And then all of a sudden Freddy comes out, and he comes through the waterbed, and he pulls him under the water, and he delivers a Freddy one-liner, because Dream Warriors was where the one-liner Freddy kind of started, and so he kind of continued the one-liner Freddy in there, and he goes, how's this for a wet dream? And then he pulls her under, and of course the water turns red, and he's dead. So every time that happens, she gets this jolt and this horrible feeling, and so she goes to school the next day. Kincaid's not there, Joey's not there. She's 100% sure he's dead, and she starts to freak out, right? So now that they're gone, that's the last of the Elm Street children. So Kristen, okay. It's the last of the Elm Street children, because when the plot needs it, they're going to bring one out from the middle of nowhere. But at this point in time, they're the last of the Elm Street children. So the original Elm Street children. When he does kill Kristen Parker, it's kind of cool because you can tell that Robert Englund is enjoying this, and they put it in the script where it's just, he has fun killing people in this movie. Like it's fun for him. Throughout this whole movie, he's just enjoying killing, and he takes pride and enjoys the different kills and the way that he kills them. So there's a point at which Kristen is talking to Alice, and Alice says, you can control your own dreams, and you can decide where they are. So if you go into a dream and you're scared, just go into a dream in a good place that you want to be. So when Kristen does go to sleep, she's like, her mom drugs her. She starts screaming, you killed me, you murdered me. And she runs up into her room, and right before she passes out, she says, think of somewhere fun, think of somewhere fun. And then all of a sudden she's on a beach, and she's just kind of laying there on the sand, and she's like, thank you, Alice. But then Freddy's hand comes out of the water like a shark. And then there's a little girl making a sandcastle, and it's the 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, girl, that is in all the other movies. She sees Freddy's glove in the water, and she's, oh, hell no, I'm out of here. And so she runs off. And then, of course, Freddy comes up out of the sandcastle that she was building and starts chasing Kristen around the beach. And, of course, we hit quicksand because anytime you're in a dream, you're running, but you can't really run because you're stuck in things. And that was in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. That was in Dream Warriors. and it was also in this movie. So that's a big thing that people experience in dreams, and so of course they put it in there. So he shoves her under the sand, which brings her back into the house, and but he didn't kill her. And so he takes her into the boiler room in the Freddy house and he gets her trapped. He's kind of goading her. He's goading her to bring one of her friends in because, again, she's the last of the Elm Street kids. So he needs her to bring in somebody else and feed them. So when he when he scares her, she brings the only person who's helped her with a dream in, and that's Alice. So she brings Alice into the dream, which he, of course, one of the best lines he does in all of the movies. He, oh, fresh meat. Alice is watching. He takes Kristen, throws her into the fire, and then as her soul's coming in, because that's what happens when somebody dies in this movie, the soul leaves their body and goes directly into Freddy. But Freddy redirected uh, Kristen's soul into Alice because he needs somebody who can bring other people into the dreams because all of the kids are gone and Freddy needs more souls. And so now she has the power to bring people into her dreams, and the entire movie is just Freddy goading her into bringing somebody else in. And so she's got her group of friends, and that's how the death sequence starts. But one of the side effects to having that, don't ask me where they got it. They don't really explain. But one of Alice's power, given the Dream Warriors thing, is that she can absorb the souls of other people. So now that she's absorbed that soul, when somebody dies, she absorbs the traits as they go through. So that's where she gets that shock and she wakes up and she knows something's wrong. So what happens is she starts absorbing all of the uh, traits of everyone else. The first death is, I think the first kill is the black girl. So she has a super smart friend and she absorbs the super smartness out of her friend. Freddy enjoyed that kill. He's a wanna suck face, and then he sucks the air out of her because she has asthma, and she dies. Then the next one is her brother. Anyway, they start dying one after another in their individual ways. Now, there is an interesting story, and there's not a bunch of behind the scenes stuff with this, but this was one of them. They ran out of money in the middle of making this film, and they had not filmed her brother's death. There's this scene where he goes into an elevator, and you start to see him get pulled up the wall, and the elevator's dropping. Well, that elevator was how he was supposed to die in the beginning. That elevator was supposed to crash into the ground, and he hits, and it was supposed to be super gory and bloody, but they ran out of money, and so they couldn't do the special effects of that screen. So they had this dilemma: do we kill him another way? Do we keep him alive? What do we do? Well, they couldn't keep him alive because they had already filmed his funeral, where he sits up and goes, "Hello, baby." They had already filmed the funeral, and so they had to kill him. So what they did is they had him, and this was post-production, so everything was done. They had him fight an invisible Freddy. So when you see him doing his karate stuff and he's punching the air and all that stuff, and then the glove hits the ground and it comes back and it stabs him in the stomach, and it was kind of a weak death and there was no Freddy in it, that's the reason. Is because they decided that they had to kill him because they'd already filmed everything, and so they decided to kill him, but they didn't have enough money to bring Robert Englund in there and do a reshoot and all that stuff, so they just had him fight air. And so she absorbs his brother's karate, and then there's a strong girl who is afraid of roaches. Freddy kills her by turning her into a roach and then squeezing the roach motel. But every single one of these kills, he's just having a blast. Like, he goes up and he messes with the super smart girl while she's stuck in the chair, and he goes and he messes with the strong girl and he breaks her arms as he's pushing down, and he's having fun and he's looking through the thing. He just really enjoys killing people in this movie, which is actually kind of light and fun, and it's kind of nice. And you could tell Robert Englund just had everything down by that point. The makeup was the best that it's ever been. In my opinion, it was the best Freddy makeup there was, because later on it turns out to look horrible. But this, in my opinion, was the best looking Freddy of all of them. So she does have this boyfriend that she meets. He's a jock, she's a nerd, and over time, as she starts to absorb the power of her friends, and this is one of the cool things about the movie, is that Alice actually had an arc. I didn't like her character, I didn't like the person playing her, but she had an arc. She didn't just start out and then she was a badass, as Ken would say, boss babe. She actually grew over the course of the movie and became stronger as a result of the things that she went through. And so at the very beginning, she didn't want to talk to this guy, she couldn't, and at the very end, she's spending time with him, doing all this stuff. And it's funny because her boyfriend is played by Eli Manning. And you can never convince me that it's not Eli Manning. Every time I look at this movie, I'm like, that is Eli Manning. And I hate the Giants. So clearly, I hate Eli Manning in this movie. It wasn't Eli Manning. It was, the guy's name is Danny Hassel. But it's Eli Manning. Look at it, and tell me it's not Eli Manning. It's freaking Eli Manning. So anyways, there's this cool movie scene where she gets sucked into this movie that she's watching in one of her dreams, and then Freddy sits back down and explains to her that he eats souls. And one of the things he does is he orders a pizza in this dream, and there's the meatballs are these little people's faces, and he stabs one in the side of the head. It's like, no, and then he eats it. It was just cool. A lot of the stuff in this dumb movie was cool and fun. Once she gets to the end, she's peeling off pictures of all her friends. And when she gets to the end, she's looking at herself. She's got little trinkets of all of her different friends and everything that's been put together. They go to save their final friend, Debbie, I think her name is. They go to try to save her, and so she runs around, meets a boyfriend in the truck, and says, I'm going to drive, and they get in the drive. And it just keeps looping. So every time she gets there to go save her friend, she ends up back at the truck, and it's just the same thing over. And they start to notice, we've done this before, we've said this again. This is actually something that happens in people's dreams. And so that's one of the cool things about the entire Nightmare series, with the exception of 2, the gayest of them all. All of the other ones incorporated all of this dream research of what people can do and dreams that people exist. Like there's one where the guy's falling and it cuts he cuts the parachute and he starts falling through the air. So it's a lot of tropes from different dreams that are in this movie, which is kind of a cool touch in the Nightmare on Elm Street series that a lot of series don't have. So anyway, they end up killing her, and then she's driving the car, and she sees Freddy in the truck, and she sees Freddy in the road, and she goes, I'm gonna kill the bitch, and she floors it, and she runs the truck into a tree because they were basically sleepwalking. Which, by the way, people have reported that happened, where they fell asleep, they were dreaming, they ran into something in their dream, and it turned out they ran into it in the car. So he goes into surgery, and of course they put him out. When they put him out, Freddy gets a hold of him. So she actually goes into the dream world through meditation to save her boyfriend. And so she jumps through this glass after she's revealed the entire mirror. She jumps through the glass, she saves the boyfriend, and then she has to confront Freddy. So she goes into this church, and there's a pretty epic Freddy fight scene. It goes back and forth. She's using all the different things she's picked up from people, but ultimately Freddy gets her in a position to where he's about to take her. And then, look, it's not the dumbest way that Freddy's been defeated. Obviously, defeating him with love and a kiss in the stupid 2 gay movie was the worst. But this is one of the more stupid ways to defeat Freddy. She basically, it said that evil can't survive when it sees itself. And so she took glass and she pointed it at Freddy, and he saw himself and he goes, no! Ah! 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 It's the stupidest God, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. But when he dies, the way he dies is cool. So, and it was completely practical effects. They had a huge Freddy thing. Somebody got hurt when it fell down because they had real actors coming through the silicone. But basically the souls were coming out of Freddy's body, and the hands would come out and they grabbed the fence that was behind him, and he got stuck there, and he's got all these arms coming out, and then they take his mouth and they rip his head open, and then all the souls fly out. Amazing, awesome 80s special effects. It was fantastic. The way he died was great, but the reason he died was the second dumbest reason we've had in the entire Nightmare series. It was just stupid. I hated it, but it took him out. His clothes were laying there. He was gone, and she went with her boyfriend and went to live happily ever after. And as they were walking around this little fountain, he flips a coin in and says, "Make a wish." And he's like, "What'd you wish for?" And she's like, "If I tell you, it won't come true." And then as she's looking in the water, she sees Freddy in the reflection of the water, and then she looks up and nobody's there. But that's the way to let you know that there was going to be another Nightmare on Elm Street, Nightmare on Elm Street 5, Dream Child, which should never have been made. It's a terrible movie, and we're going to discuss it next time on Popcornween. So thank you for coming in. Thank you for making me better than all of my coworkers, because we're kicking their ass. Make sure you keep watching. I will see you on the next Popcornween.